Hello and welcome to the Serbian capital, Belgrade, for this new edition of Europe District. In our program, we'll assess Serbia's progress towards EU membership. We'll talk to the country's president, Boris Tadic. We'll tell you why a new law on the restitution of properties and land confiscated under communism remains very divisive. And we'll meet the country's most famous actor, Miki Manojlovic. You remember him. He played the leading role in Emir Kusturic's iconic film, Underground. But we'll start our program in front of the Serbian National Assembly. Serbian authorities are eager to obtain EU candidate status before the end of the year. The recent arrests of war criminals Ratko Mladic and Goran Hadžić were hailed as a very positive development in Brussels. But talks with Pristina have been disrupted since July following violent clashes in the north of Kosovo. The clock is ticking. Belgrade only has a couple of weeks left to convince Brussels that it is indeed committed to a long-lasting settlement with Kosovo. Valérie Labonne reports.
In Brussels, on the 21st of November, Kosovars and Serbs resumed negotiations that ran aground 2 months ago. The thorny subject of border crossings will be discussed, among others. However, that doesn't really affect Zvezdan Đurić. This professor of economics at the faculty of Belgrade drives 5 hours every month to the northern part of Kosovo to teach a class of Serb students in Mitrovica. To get there, he receives a bonus of 150 euros in addition to his 500 euro monthly salary. But he doesn't do it for the money, he does it out of principle.
For a man like me, who has lived and worked in North Kosovo, it's not difficult to go over there to the faculty where I studied, worked and was co-director. This is what allows me to maintain this link, a moral and patriotic link with Kosovo.
According to official figures, there are nearly 40,000 people working for state and public enterprises in North Kosovo. Those who live there receive a salary 1.5 times higher than in Belgrade. It's a sort of risk premium to keep a Serbian presence in Kosovo. The EU has denounced the presence of certain structures there that it says are unnecessary.
There are, for example, tax offices which also operate in North Kosovo. Is it useful to have Serbian tax services that are based in North Kosovo? These are questions that have to be asked. In any case, we must try to see clearly what is being funded in that context. Why is it funded? What is the purpose of these structures? And then, if it's necessary, to keep them.
In Serbia, the funding issue remains largely taboo. But this website, What's the Cost of Kosovo, has rocked the boat. It shows how much the country has spent since the withdrawal of Serbian troops in June 1999. The figures climb to more than 6.2 billion euros, equivalent to the entire annual budget of Serbia. Its creator wonders if this money has been well spent.
You have a lot of corruption, you have a lot of state officials, you have a lot of political parties officials who are living in Kosovo, in northern Kosovo especially, and they're receiving a lot of money from Serbian budget. And of course, you have a lot of so-called businessmen. They're, I don't know, build roads, build buildings, and all the money they have is from Serbian budget.
Popovic says he calculated a final sum from the published accounts of government departments. Many of them, like the Ministry of the Diaspora or the Telecommunications Ministry, have budgets for Kosovo. But these funds are hard to find. Overseeing all this is the Ministry for Kosovo, which handles the situation directly. It spent 250 million euros on operations, all of them accountable according to the minister.
Everything that's been done in the past 3 years was done in a timely and transparent manner. As for what was done before, there were many things, but I can't comment on them.
The battle of the figures has been launched. It's difficult to say exactly how much money Serbs in Kosovo have in their hands. Many Serbs believe that as long as the country doesn't recognize the Kosovan state, Serbia must keep a strong presence at all costs. And for Serbian politicians in the run-up to elections, territorial integrity and patriotism are priceless political tools.
Our reporter on the issue of Kosovo. Well, for more on the story, I'm glad to be joined by the president of Serbia, Boris Tadic, from the pro-Western Democratic Party. Mr. Tadic, thank you for having us here at the seat of the presidency. We know that joining the EU is a top priority for your government, but are you confident that you will obtain candidate status before the end of the year?
We are working very hard on that, and I'm expecting to get candidate status. And after that, the data for accession talks. But this is hard work. In fact, Pristina is capable to block process of negotiations. I'm always crystal clear in my intentions, and I'm repeating once again, Serbia is not going to recognize Kosovo independence, implicitly or explicitly. In that direction, we are participating in dialogue by trying to reach some solutions that are going to provide better conditions for ordinary people. At the same time, those talks always has to be in accordance with the status issues. And Pristina is intending to reach implicit recognition of independence by talking about some technical issues, for example, dialing code, cadastre, and other very sensitive issues. Nobody is naive. Kosovo, that declared unilateral independence from Serbia, is not functioning well, and this is not functioning state. And Serbia don't have the interest to see Kosovo in troubles. Current solution that is coming after unilateral declaration of independence is a solution in which Serbs are losing everything and Albanians are getting everything. This is not a sustainable solution.
During her visit to Belgrade, German Chancellor Angela Merkel urged you to dismantle what she calls parallel structures in northern Kosovo. What do you respond?
First of all, there are no parallel structures, because those structures are only structures that are existing on the northern part of Kosovo. And if Madam Merkel is thinking about local municipalities, the presence of local municipalities are elected on elections that were organized under democratic rules and conditions, and they are working their job. It doesn't mean that I am always sharing my views with the local representatives of Kosovo Serbs, especially on the north. From time to time, we have some problems in our dialogue, but I hope that we can convince each other to work very hard on bringing peace and stability on Kosovo, and also to find some compromise solution that is in favor of everybody, not only Serbs but also Albanians.
Boris Tadic, each year you spend several hundreds of millions of euros to finance northern Kosovo. Do Serbians believe it's worth the cost?
We understand that Kosovo is our southern province, and we have to invest everywhere in Serbia, not only in the northern province of Vojvodina, but also in southern province on Kosovo. And this is not only our duty, this is in accordance with our constitution.
Parliamentary elections are due to take place in the spring next year. Are you confident you can win those elections? Aren't you worried that you could be defeated by the nationalist parties?
After October the 5th, after the democratic revolution, we defeated our nationalistic rivals always, and I truly believe that we can repeat that, even though we are facing with some economic problems that are very dangerous for us. But we have to keep Serbia on this track, pro-European track, modernization, reforms that we have to implement in our country, and I'm pretty sure that we can defeat our rivals once again.
Boris Tadic, President of Serbia, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
And I'm now in the Bohemian district of Skadarlija, often referred to as Belgrade's Montmartre. And let's move to our next story. It was a prerequisite for progress towards the European Union. Serbia has agreed to amend an outdated law on restitution. Citizens who saw their properties or land confiscated under the communist regime of Tito are entitled to claim them back. But as our correspondent Laurent Rouy found out, many Serbians complain procedures are long and tedious, while compensation on the whole remains very low.
Mirjana still lives in the building that belonged to her family, but with the nationalizations that happened in the communist era in 1946, the other apartments were given away. Now, after a new law passed on October the 6th, Mirjana will get back only 2 of the 18 apartments plus financial compensation. She's not too pleased with this outcome.
There are other properties that could be given instead and with which the former owners could restart economic activity.
Mirjana's neighbour knows that her apartment was confiscated before her parents bought it. The new law protects her, but she understands her neighbour's grievances.
I live in an apartment that belonged to Mirjana's family. I'd be quite ready to move out of the apartment if the state gave back what was confiscated from my family back then.
There are around 140,000 restitution claims like this. Counting all direct owners and their beneficiaries, the problem affects almost 1 in 10 citizens. Former owner associations have criticized the new law.
The law sets conditions for the restitution of property. This law is wrong. The possibility of restitution in kind is extremely small, which is why we're insisting the government changes the law urgently.
The new regulation provides several exceptions. Bogdan, a former banker who made his career in France and the United States, has returned to Serbia after the fall of Milosevic. However, he still hasn't recovered his property and started to think he won't be entitled to anything. You can see the family bank in this economic guide to Yugoslavia from 1926. Today, it's become an embassy. The Veljković family also owned a mill, but the new owner is in the process of demolishing it.
It was built by my great-grandfather in 1902. Frankly, it hurts to see something that was built by my great-grandfather taken over by someone who pretends to be the owner and that I don't even exist.
To compensate owners of unreturned property, authorities have put aside €2 billion. This will be made available in 3 years, payable in bonds with a duration of 15 years. That would make only a few €1,000 per beneficiary, a small amount compared with the actual value of expropriated property. The government believes it's a huge, concrete step forward.
The Czech Republic has managed to solve this money problem. The country was in a good economic situation and allocated 6% of its GDP to this fund. 6% of the Serbian GDP is around €2 billion. It's close to, and this is an agreement we came to with the IMF, the maximum Serbia can allocate. It's never been the case in Serbia or in other countries to return goods or money of exactly the same value. After 70 years, it's just not possible.
Many people have been looking to recover farmland like Iboya. She belongs to the minority Hungarian community that makes up around 4% of the Serbian population. The Hungarians were allied with Nazi Germany during World War II, and the law prohibits former collaborators to recover their confiscated property. However, Budapest, a member of the European Union, complained. Rehabilitated Hungarian families will now be compensated.
Those who were soldiers at the time of fascist Hungary were obliged to obey, or they were shot. Even young people had to go. They were not guilty. Many died in the war. And now their heirs won't get anything back. They're not guilty.
Back in Belgrade, Mirjana and her grandson have taken a trip to the Economic Ministry, which is specifically responsible for restitution. Before the war, the building belonged to Mirjana's family. However, the law says that state buildings will not be returned. Mirjana will probably never get back the building where she was born.
I'm now in front of the Belgradska Arena. 1 year ago, this is where Serbia won the Davis Cup after beating France. Tennis has become very popular in this country, and this because of one man, Novak Djokovic, the world's #1 player. He's a national hero in his native Serbia. His story has inspired many young Serbians whose dream it is to follow in his footsteps.
Tonight I owe you everything because you have made this day the best day of my life. I will never forget. I dedicate this trophy to you and I dedicated it to Serbia as a whole.
On July the 4th, 2011, Novak Djokovic won the Wimbledon Grand Slam tournament. An extra special victory because it made him the best tennis player in the world. He wanted to celebrate his success in Belgrade because Nol, as he's known in Serbia, has become a source of national pride.
He's the #1 brand of Serbia, and we know that the image of this country wasn't so well. Now, because of him and because of other Serbian players, I think it's much better.
Winning the 2010 Davis Cup against France with his teammates gave the people of his country a moment of joy they haven't felt for years. Djokovic's success has put Serbia well and truly on the sporting map. But then he's always believed in himself.
The biggest aspect as well is, I guess, first came from the family, that's for sure. They really believed in him. They always told him that he will as well be the world's best. And I guess through his younger days, he always believed that. He was always accompanied by people that believed that he'll be really good.
His talent has opened up a world of possibility for younger players. Registration numbers have exploded at the Tennis Federation of Serbia. Today, no less than 3 Serbs sit in the ATP Top 20 rankings, and their succession could already be ensured. 16-year-old Nikola is already doing better than Novak at the same age. He acknowledges that training conditions have improved, but the federation could do better.
You see all of these players here around. Last year they weren't here, you know. Now they're here training in the federation court, so it's getting better, but still can be better. Every good player which succeeded is from Belgrade, you know, and what is about other cities, you know, there still you have to make more courts.
Djokovic's family had to fight alone to bring Novak to this level, without substantial assistance from the federation. His father therefore decided to invest in the future of Serbian tennis by creating his own academy, a competitor. Since early November, he's taken 4 junior players under his wing. They train 2 times a day, just like their idol.
We try to follow even Novak's philosophy, so to include yoga, which is very tremendous important, then psychologist, then all the other things that are beside tennis court, because on tennis court, differences are not so big.
Today, Novak's fortune is estimated at nearly 25 million euros, excluding advertising contracts. It's priceless for Serbia to have an ambassador like Novak. He's even been offered a diplomatic passport.
Well, it's already the end of the first part of Europe District, but please stay with us in the Serbian capital, Belgrade. Our program returns after the news break in about 10 minutes.